In this episode of Doc Talk, I'm going to discuss how I always come back to using modeling amplifiers. Hey guys, this is Dr. McFarland, and thanks for checking out the channel. And if you've poked around my channel long enough, you probably noticed a few patterns about the types of videos that I make all the time. And I'm constantly making videos about the headrush, the gig board, sometimes my HX effects. And why is that? Why do I always show videos about that? Well, that is primarily what I'm using nowadays here in the studio to craft tones for maybe bands coming in that want to record with me. And I just need a very simple setup and solution so where I can dial in tones very quickly, not have to worry about big amplifiers and, plugging in microphones. So it allows me to have a lot of different tones in one small package that doesn't take up a lot of space in the studio. So let me give you a little brief history on some of the modeling type effects and amps I've used in the past. So as far back as I can remember, I've always used some kind of Line 6 modeling for effects. That's probably either the DO4, probably the M series pedals, the M5, M9, M13. I've used a Vox Tone Lab, which is a board style unit that has different effects and different amps and stuff. Don't really remember if I've kept that very long, but it was a pretty cool unit. I use the TC Electronic G system, which has a bunch of cool effects in there, and it also has loops in the back so you can plug in your drive pedals or different stuff. And that unit was pretty cool too, but it's very expensive and it only had effects. It didn't have any amp modeling or cab modeling or anything like that. I have had the Line 6 HD500, and that was a pretty cool unit. What I didn't like about that one was it didn't really have spillover, which I really prefer to have spillover if I can. So that way my delay and reverb tails spill over as I swap presets or turn on and off effects. That just allows for a smoother transition between different guitar parts within the song, okay? For a period of a few years, I did use the Boss ES8. And what that allows me to do is plug in individual pedals into the back of the switcher, and then I can create different presets for that sound. Let's say I wanted my, my Boss Blues driver and maybe a Line 6 DO4 delay and a Mooer yellow compressor all on at the same time. I can just create a preset where I make that happen, and then there's my sound. Modeling to me is the natural next step in the progression of trying to get presets, trying to get spillover between presets, and also just, having a one switch hit so you can change different effects around and maybe different amps depending on the song that you're playing. So that way you're not having to do all the tap dancing kind of stuff. And we all know what tap dancing is when you want, maybe your compressor on, for a clean sound, and then the next sound you need is maybe an overdrive, a delay, a reverb with no compression. Well, you got to turn the compression off, and then you got to tap dance 1, 2, 3 to turn the other pedals on. And it's just a weird, awkward moment on stage where maybe you don't quite get it right, and then the sound isn't really what you want it to be. And then your brain gets all confused, and then your playing starts, getting worse, and it's just not a good outcome for anybody. So here are a few reasons why I went full modeling, and I think this is why you should go that direction as well. Now, let me preface this by saying if you don't like modeling or you don't want to go full bore just yet, you don't have to. There's other options to where you can still keep your overdrive pedals, maybe your compressor, and maybe you want to use your HX effects for your delays, reverbs, modulation type stuff, and maybe an impulse response. So that's a good hybrid way of using real pedals and still using some kind of modeling to get your full setup and create whatever tones you want. Or if you want to go full modeling, there's always the Helix from Line 6, which is a great unit. There's the headrush pedal board, the gig board. There's also a HX Stomp if you want something really small. Let's see what other options are there. There's always like a Kemper kind of thing that you can use that has all your amps and effects all on one head. And then you can also buy a separate foot switch on the floor so you can swap between different presets within the Kemper. You have the Axe Effects, and there is an Effects 8, which just has your effects in there and you're still going to use a real amp. Or you have an AX8, which is your amps and effects. But I've heard those units are kind of hard to maneuver around and, dial in the sounds that you want. You can do it, but it takes a little bit longer. And there's probably a few others out there that you can look into, but those are the main ones I can think of on top of my head. So what I have here in my studio, I have a headrush pedal board. And the reason why I love the headrush pedal board is it has a touch screen. You can easily drag and drop different effects and move them around the screen and change up your sound very, very quickly. And all the amp tones, effects sound great right out of the box. I also have the headrush gig board that is a smaller size unit that actually fits on top of a desktop, like right over here. So I have all my cables already ran to the gig board. I have a Mission Engineering SPHR, which is their expression pedal for the gig board. And I'm able to always keep that plugged in right at my feet. So I can use it for a wah pedal, a volume pedal. I can use it to change parameters on maybe reverbs or delays or modulation effects. And it works really, really well for that. I do have the HX Effects. That was my crossover point from using a full-on pedal board to just something with only effects in it. And that was really small. I can do presets, I can do snapshots, I can do spillover between those snapshots. And it's a great little unit to add other types of pedals that the headrush and gig board do not have. So here's a few things I want you to keep in mind if you're thinking about going full mauling. So mauling gives you, it gives you convenience, okay? You don't have to have all these different pedals and cables running everywhere. You have all the effects and amps that you need all in one unit. So all you have to do is just show up to a gig, put the board on the floor, turn it on, and then maybe you have all your rigs in a set list and you go to that set list that you created for that gig and you just go bam, 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 right down the line, song after song, and there are all your effects and amps right there where you need it. Another great thing about mauling units is it is an all-in-one unit, so therefore you don't have to have cables, and you can spend a lot of money on cables, guys. I've used Evidence Audio cables. I've used George L cables over the years, and those plugs and the cable can get really expensive really fast. And then when you mess up on a cable, you gotta cut it shorter, you gotta rewire everything. You're just losing money left and right, really. And the third thing about mauling units are the presets. You can just hit one switch and your sound can drastically change from maybe like a compressor style clean tone to all the way to a full ambient reverb delay type stuff. Then you can go full metal if you want to, with maybe like a Mezza Boogie style amp and maybe a tube screamer in front. And you can change all those sounds within one song. And the last thing I want to talk about with mauling is these companies like Line 6, Headrush, Axe Effects, Kemper, they're always coming out with more updates. So that means more effects, more amp models, and you don't have to pay anything extra for these additional upgrades. They just give them out for free. So it's like, well, why would I go out and buy maybe like a Fender amp when I already have 10 different variations of Fender amps already in my mauling unit? Or why go out and buy an overdrive or distortion when I already have all those different types of pedals in my mauling unit? So it just makes a lot more sense to go full mauling if that's what you want to do. Like I said before, if you still like your pedals and you prefer maybe using like a gig board or a Boss ES8 to swap your pedals in and out in different presets, go ahead and do that. That's totally fine. But for me and what I do here in the studio, I don't play live. I don't really play out that much. So I just need something small, compact, easy to use, and that sounds great. so I can get all the tones I need here in the studio, and I don't have to worry about amps or cables or anything else like that. So thanks so much for checking out this video, and if you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below and click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I release new content, which is pretty much every day of the week by now. So I am Dr. McFarland. I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking.
Hey, wait a second. Before you go, be sure to check out the description down below. There's a lot of really cool links. And definitely be sure to check out my website, drmcfarlandstudios.com. See ya.